for another video, or welcome if you're new here. Today we are talking about the MAKIAGE, I think is how you say it, foundation. I don't know if it's just me, but I have been targeted on like Instagram and Facebook for this foundation in particular for so long. I mean, of course you can always ignore ads, but after I saw it a certain amount of times, my curiosity kind of got the best of me, and I really wanted to try it and see if it was kind of worth the hype they were trying to create, if you will. So this is the Woke Up Like This foundation. I think they have a couple different ones, but I took their quiz and this was the foundation and the shade that they matched me with, and I'm wearing it right now here in this intro, so you can kind of get a little preview of how it looks on my skin. But we will go ahead and jump into a little like first impressions review kind of portion where I apply this as I'm doing my makeup routine and kind of share my thoughts real time with you. So we'll do that, and then I am going to go ahead and just share my thoughts throughout the day of wearing this, and when I go to take my makeup off at night, we will do kind of a little wrap up and just my thoughts of how it wore throughout the day, whether I think this foundation is worth it, and whether I'll be keeping it, because right now I am in the kind of like 2-week trial period that they do where they send you the foundation, and if you like it, you can keep it and they will charge you the rest of the price, or you can ship it back within the 2 weeks and they will not charge you. So I think that's a really great way to try a foundation because it's definitely such a personal product and it's hard to find the right formula for your skin and the right color for your skin. So we will see how this wears on my face. Just a couple details I do think that are worth sharing right up front. I have combination oily skin, so not every foundation wears the same for me. A lot of foundations that aren't formulated specifically for that skin type will kind of just melt off my face throughout the day. I am slightly worried that this foundation is going to be one of those, but we will see how it wears. I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt in making this video, so hopefully it's not a total flop, but we'll see. I also will have all of the products that I've used today linked down below in case you're curious about anything else that I'm wearing on my face, since I really did just talk about the foundation in this video. But two I thought were worth mentioning is the primer and setting spray that I'm using, just to hopefully give this foundation the best chance that it can have. So the primer I'm wearing today is the Smashbox Photo Finish Oil and Shine Control. This is the first step of trying to keep my skin, you know, underneath the foundation, not gross and oily, but it still happens. It definitely makes a difference though, so I love this stuff. And then I also have the Urban Decay De-Slick Makeup Setting Spray, and I use this both under my makeup and as I finished my makeup. So those are two products that hopefully will give this foundation its best chance. I use them all the time, and really they've made such a difference with the staying power of my makeup in general. So anyway, without further rambling, I think we should go ahead and just get into the trial portion of this video and applying the foundation. All right, y'all, this is the moment of truth. Here's my little box. They did also include a little free like product gift kind of thing. This is a eyeliner. It's called Ink Liner, and it's just in the color black. I actually already opened this and used it just because I was curious. So it's on my eyes right now. It's also just a really like fine tip liner. We'll probably just do a close-up of this so you can see better, but it was very easy to be precise and I'm a fan so far. But we will go ahead now and just get into the star of the show. This is the Woke Up Like This foundation, and I got the color 20, I think. I'm not sure if there's a name for the shade. I'll have to check on the bottle. I feel like the packaging and everything feels very luxe, which is, I think, on point for the price point for this foundation. The packaging is absolutely beautiful. Again, we'll put in some close-ups for you so you can kind of see really well. So the shade is just called 20. There's not a name for it, but this is the bottle. You definitely get a good amount of product here, and I feel like this shade looks like it's going to be a good match for me. We will see how it looks on my skin though. I always get unreasonably excited when I realize that a product has a pump. Like, it's just so much easier for liquid foundations. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pump some onto my hand here. And I'm really not sure how much I'm going to need to use, so I'll start with kind of a smaller amount and I can always build from there. It looks like it's a pretty like light formula, not super thick. I'm just going to use a little beauty sponge here. I'm sorry that this one is kind of dirty. I probably should have cleaned it or used a new one for this video, but here we are, friends. So I'm just kind of spreading the product out of my hand. This is how I usually apply my normal foundation. I'll get a little on the sponge here and just start blending it into my skin. Very first impression, I think this is a pretty good match for me. I did do their quiz on their website where you kind of select different photos to try to kind of match your skin tone. But yeah, this is just on the color alone, I'm kind of impressed because I feel like usually, even when you get matched in store, sometimes it can be really hard to find the right shade for your skin. But yeah, this is a pretty solid match. I will say right away, I am getting some kind of scent though. It's kind of perfumey, so if you don't like scented products, I definitely right away would not recommend this foundation. It's not super strong, like I don't mind it, but I do think if you're sensitive to scents that this would not be a good product for you. All right, so here's how my face is looking so far. I've really only applied it kind of below here. So I feel like looking in the viewfinder, it almost looks like it's a little light, but in person, it's a pretty good match, I think, for my skin tone. It might just be the lighting. So anyway, I am finding I'm probably gonna have to use a little bit more than I usually do. So I'm adding another maybe pump or so, and I think this should be enough for the rest of my face, but I also may have just used a little less than I normally would because I wasn't sure what kind of coverage I was gonna get here. It did seem like, just from the videos I've seen and like their website, that this was kind of a more buildable formula, so, and I'm really not opposed to that because I feel like then it's super customizable, and if you have any areas that you kind of want heavier coverage, then it's easy to kind of build to that. But yeah, so far, first impression, I'm really liking how it's looking on my skin. I don't feel like it's really like sitting in my pores or anything crazy. I will say I definitely can kind of see it on my nose, but that's just kind of an area that I personally struggle a bit with. Like I just have larger pores in my nose, and I really probably could use a better primer or like maybe switch out my skincare to kind of work with that. But I do think adding a little bit more product is helping. And update using one last pump just to kind of get a little bit more of a full coverage on certain parts of my face where I'd like it. So here is the foundation with nothing else on my skin yet. I haven't added powder or concealer or anything. So this is kind of how it's looking. I feel like I should get you guys a little closer so you can really see. Okay, so here we are, super up close and personal. Wow, didn't think I was gonna be putting my face on the internet quite this way, but I just really wanted you to be able to kind of see how it looks on my skin and any areas it's kind of like settling in or anything like that. I do think overall it's a pretty good coverage. I am a little bit worried about it looking cakey once I add powder, just because I did have to use a bit more product to really get the kind of coverage that I like when I wear a full face of makeup, but I do think it looks pretty good for the most part for now on my skin. We'll see how it sits throughout the day. All right, I am going to go ahead and do the rest of my makeup really quick, and then I will come back and share some initial thoughts with you. All right, so the rest of my makeup is done now. This is what we're looking like. And overall, my first impressions are pretty solid of this foundation. My mirror's over here. I'm sure you figured it out by now, but that's why I keep looking over. I feel like from like a reasonable distance, everything looks pretty smooth and it blended in pretty well. I will say I do already notice it settling a bit into kind of like finer lines on my face. So I'm not sure if that's just kind of the way that I applied it or if that's more like a tendency of this foundation. Everything else I used on my face, I use all the time. So the kind of like variable, I guess, if you will, is the foundation, which is kind of the whole point of this video. So we'll see how it wears throughout the rest of the day. Full transparency, it's about 2:30 p.m. right now, so this isn't like a super long wear, but I will leave this on until I get ready for bed tonight, just to see how it stands up against my oily skin and the just normal day activities. So otherwise though, I do think this is a pretty nice foundation. I am curious to see how it wears on my face, but I think it was relatively easy to apply. Again, this packaging is super nice and very easy to use with this pump, so I do think it seems like a pretty quality product. We'll see how it wears, you know, because that's obviously the most important part. But I do think, again, the color is a pretty decent match for my skin. It might be slightly dark. I did notice when I was using my concealer, it seemed super bright, which I do have a lighter shade so I can use it under my eyes, you know, that kind of thing. But it felt like intense until I blended it. So I don't know though, on camera, I feel like it looks like almost too well matched. Like, is that my skin, question mark? So yeah, I feel pretty good about this foundation at the moment. I think it blended in pretty nicely. I think I already mentioned, but I did have to use a decent amount of product to get the coverage I was looking for, but I don't think it looks like super caked on or anything like that. It definitely looks like I'm wearing foundation, but I don't think it looks bad necessarily. So those are my initial thoughts. I did also mention that it was scented, but I think that's a really important thing to emphasize. It smells kind of like perfume, so if that's something you're sensitive to, I do not think this is a good foundation for you. But yes, anyway, with that being said, we will see how this foundation wears throughout the day. I'm gonna keep you all posted and just do little clips on my vlog camera, and we'll see how it goes. Hello friends, it has been a couple of hours. It is currently 6 p.m. I don't know if you can even see that, but just to give you an idea. So here is how the makeup is looking. I feel like honestly it really hasn't budged, and I'm glad to see that. I mean, it's only been like, I think like 3.5 hours-ish, but that's a decent amount of time, and so far so good. So we love to see it. I will say I love that my skin looks more on the matte side of things, but if you get really close, I know we're like very up close personal, but I just want to show you the texture of my skin and the foundation. So I think it looks okay for the most part, but it's definitely a little on the cakey side, and I'm kind of thinking that's because I overdid it on the powder, which I just applied the same amount that I would with my usual daily foundation, but I think for this foundation it was just a little much. So I definitely feel like things look a little bit cakey, but even just looking in the viewfinder here, like it's still from a distance relatively smooth. I just know that like I probably wouldn't use as much powder the next time I wore this foundation, but so far I like how it's wearing. I still think it's a good match. It hasn't really oxidized or anything. Yeah, pretty happy with it so far, but we'll see how it wears throughout the evening. I'm about to go for a walk with my boyfriend, so we'll expose it to the elements a little bit. I don't think that's really gonna change much, but we shall see how it goes. All right, last update for this video. It is currently 10 p.m. I feel like it's not really focusing on that, but promise that it is. Hence the like messy bun vibe and like the fact that I've changed and the lighting. Hopefully it's okay. I feel like it looks all right in the viewfinder, so I think this is gonna be a good spot to do my last little update. But here is how my foundation is looking. Oh, please excuse my eye. But yes, so this is how my foundation is looking. I feel like overall it's stayed on pretty well. Like it has a really good staying power, and like my T-zone gets so oily. So the fact that like that's still intact, like, you know, my nose is like mostly still on. I can see that it's starting to kind of separate a little bit, maybe over here. But I did also wear sunglasses while we were walking earlier, and I put my mask on when I was walking through my building. So like there were kind of like factors that could have caused that to push around a little, but I think overall the foundation stayed on pretty well, and I still like how it looks. I do still think, like I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit on the cakey side, but I want to experiment more with this foundation and see if that's actually this product or just the fact that maybe I don't need to use as much powder, or just kind of adjust the way I apply it. You know, there's so many factors that go into how your makeup turns out, which is why, you know, there's lots of trial and error, and we make videos like this to learn from each other. So yes, anyway, first impressions of this lovely little foundation here, pretty strong. I'm pretty happy with it and pleasantly surprised, because I figured since this was something that I just kind of impulse bought after seeing an ad a million times, like that it wouldn't necessarily be great, but I think it's really pretty solid. It's definitely, I think, at least first impressions wise, at the price point that it should be. Like this seems like a really good quality foundation, and it has good staying power. Again, I have super oily skin, and the fact that it hasn't budged, granted it's only been like 7 hours, but still, like that's like a relatively long day of wear, or like a night out, for example. So I think it has good staying power, and it hasn't oxidized at all. Like it still matches my skin tone pretty well. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, maybe it's a little bit dark for me in this lighting, but I do think it matches pretty well overall, and I'm pretty happy with it. So yes. Anyway, those are my kind of sleepy evening thoughts about this foundation. I am pretty happy with it. I think it still looks pretty solid considering I've been wearing it most of the day. Those were all the thoughts that I had to share on this foundation at the moment. I do think that I probably will be keeping it. I definitely want to play with it over the next couple of days and try different ways of applying it, using more and less powder. Not more powder. Whoa, no, it's already There already was too much powder happening today, but you get the idea. I just kind of want to experiment a little more and see if this belongs in my longer term makeup routine, because I do generally just buy drugstore foundation. It's not something that I invest in because I've found ones that I've liked a lot in the past. One of my other go-to favorite ones is the Revlon Color Stay foundation. So, and this one's only like, I think $10. So amazing, love this stuff. But I definitely just wanted to experiment and do it for the vlog, share the process with you guys. So I hope this was interesting and helpful. And yeah, those are all my thoughts. I'm gonna go get ready for bed now. I am definitely tired and ready to just relax and not have makeup on my face. So it's definitely time. All right, that was everything for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you're new here. I would absolutely love to have you stick around and join the Curly Hair Love fam. Thank you so much for watching this video and hanging out with me. I love you all so much, and I can't wait to see you in my next video. Bye.